to making that response to those changes is how we finance climate smart, how we finance agriculture, and in particular, how do we finance climate smart agriculture. And since this is one of my last speeches before I retire, I feel empowered to highlight a couple of critical issues. Yes, the technology around climate smart agriculture is really important. We need to get that right. We need to be innovative and creative. And there's so much innovation and creation in Africa. And I think the challenge is really how do we disseminate that to farmers? So that's an important pillar to focus on. But for me, I think one of the most important pillars to focus on is how do we persuade the ministries of finance to make sure that they are funding agriculture in a sustainable and reliable and resilient way. And at the end of the day, the ministries of agriculture, the ministries of trade, all the ministries related to the food systems need to be able to persuade the ministries of finance that they've got a narrative that will help provide predictable financing for agriculture going forward. Let me provide one example of why predictability is important. I work in a country in Africa, and we undertook a public expenditure review of that country. And the public expenditure review highlighted the fact that there had been huge variations in the financing provided by that country to its own public research institutions. So financing had gone up and down, in part because international financing had filled the troughs. So what was the outcome of that? That the national research institutions had actually had a declining rate of investment in human capital, a declining rate of investment into infrastructure, and therefore, at the end of the day, after a 15-year period, they were being less productive than they would have been if they had provided predictable public financing to research. But we need to make the case for why predictable financing to climate smart agriculture is important. And one of the areas that the World Bank is currently focused on is the Food Systems Climate Action Plan. My colleagues will be talking about this later on. This tool is really focused on analyzing public and private investment into climate smart agriculture. And the purpose is to try and identify where public expenditure can be made more efficient. How do we link more effectively to private investment? But most of all, how do we begin to provide some predictable, resilient financing to climate smart agriculture? And in doing that, I think that we really need to think about the changes that need to occur between institutions and the way that institutions work. My final point would be climate smart agriculture, and the key issue which I hear every time I come to these great African debates around Africa at the moment is how do we make value chains work more efficiently? The World Bank is moving towards a model that's called AgriConnect. It's really focused on jobs. It's really focused on how do we maximize the potential for agriculture to produce more, but also how to get agriculture to produce and provide better quality jobs along value chains. And again, tools like FSCAP is looking at how we make that investment into agri-food chains predictable and resilient, and enabling farmers to be more productive and have better quality incomes. So I'm really hoping that this is my last major event as a World Bank staff member. I'm really looking forward to it. But my plea is that we really look for new ways of working. We come up with a really clear, strong action plan for how we go forward and really make the world of climate smart agriculture, as it says in the title, connect better. Many thanks and lots of luck over the next few days.
Thank you so much, Tim. Let's give a better round of applause. Thank you. Really appreciate that. And especially for emphasizing the need for predictability, especially around financing, something we need in Africa. I think I speak for many when I say Tim has been a great friend of Africa. It will be very sad to see you leave the bank, but hopefully in other ways you can still be involved in some of the the things that we are still grappling with. Thank you so much for that. And now it's my pleasure to invite Her Excellency, Ms. Olivia Owen, who's the New Zealand ambassador to Ethiopia and the African Union, to also make her welcome remarks.
Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, kia ora koutou, good morning. It is an absolute pleasure to be with you all today. Let me begin by first acknowledging the organisers, our regional partners, and the many, many experts and practitioners gathered here today. Your commitment to strengthening food systems across Eastern and Southern Africa is deeply valued, and New Zealand is proud to stand with you in this work. I don't need to tell you that this region is home to some of the world's most dynamic African agriculture economies. Agriculture underpins livelihoods, food securities, and economic transformations in every country present here today. And yet, as we know too well, these food systems are under immense pressure. Climate shocks are becoming more frequent and more severe. Droughts, floods, and changing rainfall patterns are reshaping landscapes and altering growing seasons. Farmers, smallholders especially, are being asked to adapt faster than ever before. In this context, the agricultural development imperative could not be clearer. Ensuring that food systems are productive, resilient, and sustainable is not just an economic imperative, it is fundamental to the stability, well-being, and future prosperity across the continent. This is why New Zealand supports the World Bank's work and the global agenda to repurpose environmentally harmful agriculture subsidies into sustainable food system investments, including the Food Systems 2030 Trust Fund. We are here today because we are committed to enhancing climate resilience, realising food security, and reducing emissions. New Zealand is especially pleased that as part of our contribution has supported the FSCAP in 6 pilot countries, each of whom is represented in this room. We're also proud of our other contributions, for example, to CGIAR Ukama Ustawi Scaling for Impact Initiative, which complements this work by supporting climate-smart agriculture, science, innovation, and scaling for food security in Eastern and Southern Africa. Regional cooperation meetings like this are absolutely indispensable, including through the work of organizations like CARDESA and IGAD. Cooperation is particularly vital for areas such as early warning systems that cross borders, trade agreements that connect farmers to markets, and research and extension systems that share innovations and strengthen capacity across communities and across countries. On that last point, I was pleased that New Zealand, through our Bioeconomy Science Institute, hosted a study tour in December for African agricultural research leaders and the bank, and I'm thrilled that some people are here today who were on that. Strengthening partnerships and scientific exchange is absolutely vital, and I look forward to seeing how the insights from the study tour are used to support sustainable financing and the scaling of agricultural innovations. I don't want to take too much of your time today, but if you will permit me, I would like to share a little bit about New Zealand's history. One of the reasons that we are so committed to this agenda is our own agriculture story. Agriculture remains a critical contributor to our economy. Although we only have a small population of around 5 million people, we produce enough food to feed over 40 million, 8 times our population. And while today we export a significant proportion of our agriculture production, it's important to say that this was not always the case. 40 years ago, the New Zealand government eliminated most agriculture subsidies and removed all price support. Our farmers adapted, diversified, and adjusted production, focusing on consumer demand and on-farm productivity and efficiency. I'm not going to lie, it was a challenging transition for our farmers, many of whom needed support to adapt. But in New Zealand, as elsewhere, they were able to rise to the challenge, demonstrating the adaptability and the resilience for which farmers are famous. That's not to say it's all smooth sailing now. Today, the challenge at the forefront for New Zealand's agriculture, as it is globally for farmers, is climate change. Like many of you, our farmers operate in difficult and changing environmental conditions, and we have learnt over time that productivity and sustainability must go hand in hand. Agriculture accounts for over half of New Zealand's greenhouse gas emissions. Because of this, we've had to learn the value of strong agricultural institutions that can support our drive to develop less emission-intensive, sustainable agriculture. The research bodies, extension systems, data-driven decision-making, and market linkages that support farmers to innovate and adapt. Since 2008, New Zealand has invested heavily in research on low-emission, on-farm measurement and mitigation. In 2023, we established a private-public partnership with agribusinesses, fertilizer companies, and banks to accelerate those solutions. And through this work, we're seeing progress towards reducing emissions within New Zealand's pasture-based farming systems, such as livestock feed additives, that, once scalable, can be shared globally. Our partnerships are also paying dividends. Through the Global Research Alliance on Agricultural Greenhouse Gases, of which many of you in this room are members, New Zealand's contribution brings scientists together to grow more food without growing greenhouse gas emissions, helping to ensure that scientific advances in countries such as New Zealand can drive global emission reductions and food security globally. Ladies and gentlemen, New Zealand brings our contribution and our experience as evidence that transformation, both economic and environmental, is possible, even in challenging situations. The work that you do through the Food Systems 2030 Trust Fund to develop food system climate action plans is vital, and New Zealand could not be prouder to support it. Thank you so much for the opportunity to join you today. I wish you productive discussions and every success in the work ahead. Ngā mihi nui, amasegenalu, and thank you.
Thank you so much. Amasegenalu. Thank you, thank you. That's amazing. It's very intriguing, that fascinating history of how New Zealand has developed its agriculture. I think Africa could learn a lot from that, especially the bitter pills that we have to take to get better, and that New Zealand did. You know, it's amazing. I just added New Zealand to the list of countries I need to visit soon. Well, let's keep going. Next, we have the Executive Secretary of CADESA, which, as you all know, is co-leading a lot of these programs and co-convening this meeting. That's Professor Cliff Sibusiso Dlamini. So welcome as well.
Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, allow me to stand on the existing protocol. A team taught me not to bring a laptop, so I'm going to fight for my life here. No laptop. So I think you will recall that CADESA is the center that was designated by SADC member states to coordinate agriculture research and development in Southern Africa. Technology generation, technology dissemination, technology assimilation is part and parcel of our job. But then the CADESA DNA is all about partnership and collaboration. That is why in this event, CADESA is here with partners. Without partnership, we don't think we can make any impact, even in our region. So I think I want to start by appreciating the critical role played by the World Bank in transforming our food systems in the midst of the climate challenges that we are facing as a sub-region in Africa. The World Bank has done a lot of work, even in the FSRP. And then it has, this event actually recognizes the importance of engaging stakeholders at all levels. when it comes to climate smart agriculture, which is sometimes referred to as ecosystem-based adaptation in other regions, there is no way the national level will have an impact or success without also recognizing the regional level and the continental level. So the frameworks from the national, the regional, and the continental are all supposed to be part and parcel of the process. And that is what this event is all about. I think I'll leave my. So I think the other important, for me, this topic is the most important topic and most interesting. As CADESA and our partners, when you talk of scaling, we see now that this event is the perfect platform for us to emphasize that for climate smart agriculture to thrive and impact lives in our Africa sub-region, we have to adopt the 3 fundamental scaling strategies.